Aloha, this is Pastor John Miller, and today on NASCON TV, I want to talk to you about a subject called It's Not Politics, It's Ministry. Got my little friend here, Nan. He wants to say hello to you. He's our little mascot. Keeps us calm and quiet. Anyway, this message is about why a minister would be a good politician. As you know, I'm running for office of state rep for Waiahua District 46, Waiahua, Whitmore Village, and Lenape Valley. And I'm going to give you a little insight why I'm doing that and why I think it would be good for other pastors to run for ministry, and why churches don't have to be afraid to get involved in politics, because actually they should be involved. I want to read to you the sevenfold purpose of this U.S. Pastors Council. This is their mission statement. It says, the mission of the U.S. Pastor Council is to empower pastors and their congregations across racial and denominational lines to impact the culture and community through concerted prayer, to equip our congregations for effective citizenship, and to provide a unified voice on spiritual, cultural, social, and moral issues as a means of promoting biblical righteousness and justice. And this is their sevenfold purpose. It's called the America Plan. Articulate biblical positions on important moral issues from the pulpit and to the community. M. Motivate congregations to be godly, responsible citizens. E. Educate congregants on scriptural, historical, and legal foundations for responsible Christian citizenship. R. Register every eligible citizen in each participating church to vote. See, it's very important that we vote. I would like to have your vote, but I'm not telling you just to vote for me. Go and vote for someone. I. Inform congregants on a regular basis in regard to important local, state, and national issues or concerns. C. Coordinate with pastors and churches of like mind throughout the community to pray, stand, and speak together. A. Activate members to effective prayer, service, and civic involvement in the community, promote biblical righteousness and justice. 100% must vote. Listen, I would love to have your vote. I'd like to earn your vote. But more important, I'd like for you to do research on the issues of concern to you, on the candidates for all people running in your districts, and vote. Do not give up your God-given right to vote. So many people have fought to vote over the years. My son is in the United States Army, and he goes out, and he's already been deployed, and he's been defending the freedoms of this country. And I believe America is a great country, and I'm not going to say it's not, because I've been to Russia, I've been to Africa, I've been to Nicaragua, I've been to Guatemala, I've been to Honduras, I've been to Trinidad and Tobago, I've been to Belize. I've been all over the world. And everywhere I go, I meet people that want to come to America. So let's not be fooled to think this is such a bad place, because if it was so bad, everybody wouldn't want to be coming here. So I think we should honor God, our families, and our country. Anyway, let's take a look at the scripture that I want to base this message on today. And it's found in Romans chapter 13. I'm going to read from the American Standard Bible. Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 7. Every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a minister of God to you for good. He just said authority is a minister of God to you for good. an avenger who brings wrath on the one who practices evil. Therefore it is necessary to be in subjection, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes, for rulers are servants of God, devoting themselves to this very thing. Render to all what is due them, tax to whom tax is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. So the main point that I want to make today is authority came from God, and it still comes from God. So wouldn't it make sense to put people in these positions of authority who believe in God and who follow God's principles? So let's take a look here at this booklet and take a quick look at the word minister, which we said our title was It's Not Politics, It's Ministry. And properly, a chief servant, hence an agreement appointed to transact or manage business under the authority of another, in which sense it is a word of very extensive application. And that's Webster's 1828 dictionary. Now, Romans 13, which we just read, provides a clear understanding of God's limited purpose of governing authority. The term minister is used in verse 4 as a part of that description, using the Greek word diakonos, one who executes the commands of another, especially of a master, a servant, attendant, minister, the servant of the king. Purpose of civil authority is indeed to minister. One of the reasons that I even thought about become a candidate for District 46 is by watching the previous state rep, Marcus Oshuro, who held this office for 23 years. For the last 4 years, I watched this man. I watched him try to save the hospital, fight for this hospital. I watched him participate in a car wash where he was one of the first ones there and one of the last ones to leave, and this thing lasted all day long. Other politicians and other candidates for office at that time came, did a photo op, took some pictures, and left. They didn't wash one single car or even get their hands wet. Marcus and his wife were there the whole time, taking pictures, greeting people, because Marcus truly wanted to save the hospital. He knows that that hospital sees over 25,000 people a year in the ER. He knows that there's a 100-bed nursing care facility unit. He knows it has the only psychiatric geriatric care unit on the whole island. He knows if someone were to have a heart attack in the North Shore and the hospital was gone, they would not make it, they would not live. And Marcus Oshuro believes, as well as I believe, as a minister of the gospel, that one person's life is more important than buying 1,200 acres of farmland or a building that sits empty or used for special purposes. That as a state rep, our number one concern should be for the health and the welfare of the citizens in our community. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about running for state rep. I want to make sure that we save the Waihewa General Hospital so people can get the care that they deserve. Next, when I worked with Marcus with the Leah Bridge to help form the Waihewa Homeless Alliance, and we had this neighborhood cleanup, which 120 people from the neighborhood, this were businesses, nonprofits, churches, state government, and local citizens worked together. I saw him down there bagging up garbage in the homeless camps. I didn't see any other politicians even make a photo op. But Marcus was there from sunup to sundown. And as I watched him, I used to always say to myself, this man is like a pastor to this community. So I believe good politicians, faithful politicians, those who will take care of us, are ministers to the people. They don't have to be ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but they're ministers to the people. So I encourage you to look for when you do your research for the ballots, to look for candidates that minister to people, that serve people. That's what ministry is. It's serving people. So I moved here 6 years and 8 months ago to Waihewa. I chose to come to this city. I chose it to be my home for me and my family, to become the pastor of the Waihewa Community Church of the Nazarene. I took a reduced salary to come here. But I came here because I felt called to come and minister to the people of Waihewa. I've also done ministry at Whitmore Village. I've been over to the Lanai Valley several times for a few things, but access to that community is somewhat limited. But that's why I moved here. That's why I've stayed here. My son attended Leilehua High School for 4 years, graduated, joined the United States Army. My daughter attends Trinity Lutheran School. And my 18-year-old boy, Peter Flint Miller, who is in a wheelchair, who is unable to talk. He's a special needs. He gets all his food through a G-tube in his stomach. He's attended Leilehua for 3 years. He's in a special needs classroom. So I'm dedicated to this community. When the ministry of governing is disconnected from biblical moorings, there is no possible way for it to attain an appropriate balance of justice and mercy. It must then be tossed upon the waves of selfishness, greed, sin, and corruption. Does that sound familiar? I want to read something to you. This is from a pamphlet I just saw put out. And it says, do you know? This goes to what we just read here about the government sometimes can be selfish, greedy, and corrupted if it's not following godly principles. Did you know that in Hawaii, half of the residents live paycheck to paycheck? This is put out by Hawaii News Now. That Hawaii has the second highest tax burden in the entire United States. This was put out by Honolulu Star Advertiser. Hawaii taxpayers are getting a pretty raw deal and don't get much return for their investment, Hawaii News Now. Hawaii has the highest cost of living in the United States, CNBC. Hawaii's wages are the 5th lowest in the country. That comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And 5 out of 6 new jobs in Hawaii pay poverty wages. State of Hawaii Department of Labor. Worst state to make a living 6 years in a row. Money/rates.com. Hawaii's rents and housing prices are number 1 in the United States. Civil Beat plus Pacific Business News. Okay, see, these are the facts and the numbers don't lie. So I think it's time for the church to stand up and vote. You need to vote for people who are honest, not selfish for greed and gain, who put the people first. We need a strong two-party system. That's another reason why I chose to run for office. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a Republican. And I just believe last year in the legislature, there's only 5 Republicans out of 51. And we need more Republicans. So we can balance out this power. And these bills that are running through there to become laws are discussed. They're not ran through in the middle of the night and in secret chamber rooms. And they need to be discussed and sit down and air it out and give the people a chance to respond to them and those things like this. But I want to encourage you today as a faith person. And you could be watching this show and maybe you don't call yourself a Christian, not a follower of Jesus Christ, but you're a faith person. You have faith and values. I would like to encourage you. This comes from our Bible, Christian Bible, but I'm sure that the Bible that you're looking at, or I don't know if you call it a Bible, whatever, would have similar principles to say, let your light shine before men, that they must see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. As people of faith, we should let our light shine so it glorifies and points a light toward what we believe. I joined the Blue Zones initiative when they were first coming here, and I was asked by Marcus Ashuro and some other people in the community to be a part of the faith-based Blue Zones Committee, and I started reading the book to see how I wanted to see if this would benefit the people. And there's two things that caught my attention. One, it says that people who attend a faith-based service 4 times a month live 10 to 15 years longer. And then it said those who know their purpose in life can live 10 years longer. So I thought, hey, that's the whole part of the church. That's the whole part of faith, is we're faithful in our attendance to principles and we know our purpose for living. That's a 25-year extension on your life. So I went down there to the Dole property, which was in Whitmore Village, and I was one of the original presenters to the Blue Zones. And a lot of folks were saying, oh, we won't get picked this year. It's our first time. But I had faith, and I knew, I could tell by what was going on, that God was going to pick our community, because Wauhee was a great community. It's a great place to live. Family values. There's 70 churches here. This community is made up of conservative families, hardworking. There's farmers, there's business people. As you walk around, you see all kinds of independent trucks of businesses. And in the morning, you see people going out of here. Sometimes up at the coffee shop at the church, I'm up there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I see people going to work 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to make a living. They're hardworking folks. They believe family is important. And they believe in conservative family values. And that's why I think I'd be a good representative for this community. Personally believe we cannot separate ourselves from the government and just say, let them do whatever they want, and truly believe those people who follow the Bible. We are mandated by God to be involved in these things. Now, everyone's not going to be called into run for office, but you can support someone who is running. You can hold up signs for them. You can go down to the state capitol when there's bills that are being reviewed, and you can make public testimony. You can send your testimony over the internet. There's all sorts of things you can do to get involved. Prayer is a really good one. Despite the revisionist history taught in government schools and even many Christian educational institutions, the role of Christianity in the Bible, in the culture and governmental foundations of the United States are irrefutable. According to Christian historian David Barton, Gary DeMar, Marshall Foster, and Peter Marshall, the Bible was a primary and secondary reference in over 90% of the writings, debates, and public discourses during the founding era. Also, for example, at least 52 of the 55 signers of the Declaration of Independence were professing Christians and active church members. I want to tell you, if you're in the church and you're blaming the government for all its problems, and you're saying, oh, blah, 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 which I've been there, done that, it's time for us to step up and stand up and start participating and taking our responsibility to be part of the government. The U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice Joseph Story, appointed by President and Father of the Constitution, James Madison, said in his commentary on the Constitution of the United States that probably at the time of the adoption of the Constitution and of the First Amendment, the general, if not the universal sentiment in America was that Christianity ought to receive encouragement from the state, so far as such encouragement was not incompatible with the private rights of conscience and the freedom of religious worship. See, separation in church of state was to protect the church from the state, not the other way. Since God ordained government, then it's really not a serious question as to whether the church has a right to influence it. The statement, you'll lose your tax-exempt status, threat, in regards to the 501c3 nonprofit status incorporated churches under IRS regulations did not even exist till 1954. Come on, let's get our heads together here. Illustrates the biblical, historical, and constitutional bankruptcy of this view of separation of church and state. Since the imposition of the restrictions on political speech by 501c3 churches in 1954, only one church has lost its tax-exempt status for one day because of political activities. Please read this again. Pastors and churches have been intimidated into silence with one of the greatest bluffs since poker was invented. We urge our pastors to go to www.pulpitfreedom.org, and I'll put that up on the screen. www.pulpitfreedom.org. As pastors and churches, we have a right, a God-given right, to be involved in the political arena. And we also have the right to encourage our people to vote, and to vote for people with biblical values. And we have a right, a constitutional, God-given right, to not be pushed around and pushed out of politics. Voter registration, voter education, candidate forums, political party platform comparisons conducted by churches, all legal, as important and necessary for effective impact. You can find more information on uspastoralcouncil.org/resources. I'll put that up on the screen too. It's a project of Alliance Defending Freedom. Recently here in Hawaii, the Attorney General, before the primary, sent out a letter reminding the churches to be careful, not to get too involved in politics, because we might lose our nonprofit status. Why did he do such a thing? Well, for one reason, you know how many churches in Hawaii? Do you know what would happen if the church would stand up? I mean, would just stand up for biblical principles and values, for honesty and transparency, and to do away with this greed and this lust for power and these special interest groups? The state of Hawaii would return to what it was, because this state was a Christian state. It would return to that when we, as the church, stands up. They're afraid. And I want to tell you, if you're watching this from District 46, where there are 70 churches, we were in the Guinness Book of World Records at one time for having the most churches on one street. If you folks would stand up and vote for conservative family values, whichever candidate you feel represents that, you'll begin to see a change in your city, in your state, in your nation. People keep asking me, how can you say it's Miller time and you're a pastor? That's a great question. I'm going to read off to you what Miller time means. But first of all, I want you to know it means, as a Republican, I believe it's time for change. I mean real change. Not. It's so interesting to me that you have groups of people who are being endorsed by special interest groups. And you can, if you want to find out who someone's being endorsed by, look on the bottom of their flyer, their banner, all the people. That's who they're going to be beholding to. So I'm a conservative Republican, fiscal conservative. I'm a strong advocate and supporter of the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and I will fight tirelessly for those amendments. You can see it here. I'll have it up on the screen as I'm talking. Miller time. M. Maintain our agricultural heritage and rural lifestyle. Whitewood Village, Lanai Valley, District 46, has a heritage of agriculture. Let's maintain it, but not let it hold us back from going forward. Increase efforts to address the homeless situation. Listen, the solution for this is not Ohana zones. We need to take care of our own homeless people. We don't need to be bringing people in from all over the state who are laying in front of our businesses and who are standing at the exit to the highway holding up signs wanting money, when all that's going to do is make our tourist dollars drive right through our city and go down to the North Shore. We need to have solutions that work, not bringing in more people to lay around and do things. That doesn't work. L, limit government intervention in our daily lives. As I said before, I think the individual citizen knows better how to live their life than the U.S. government does. So let's let them decide those kind of things. L2, limit government spending. There are solutions we can see to fix problems that don't always have to come from government spending, which does require, many times, taxes. R, revitalize our Waiua General Hospital. We have got to save this hospital. State Rep Marcus Ashur, who had this position for 23 years, fought hard for this hospital. I will continue that fight. T, for time. Transform our parks, recreation, and community centers into places that are inviting and bring the community together. I, invest in education and infrastructure in ways that benefit educators and construction workers. Here's a big one. Invest in education in ways that make sense. This measure on the ballot to tax investment properties, it's ambiguous. It doesn't define who it will tax. The mayors of all the islands oppose it. So if all the mayors oppose it, even Kirk Caldwell here on Oahu, why would we push through such legislation? It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's taking money from firefighters, police officers, and EMS workers. Big if. It's not even written in such a way that you know that they will get the money. There's no guarantee that these taxes will go to the teachers. This is not a good solution. It's not going to work. Let's find solutions that do work. We do want to take care of our teachers, but we also want to take care of our firefighters, police officers, and EMS workers. Market our businesses, cultural landmarks, and natural resources in ways that benefit our community and preserve them for future generations. E, equip educators, police officers, emergency responders with the resources they need to keep our community safe. We need to make sure that our kids in our schools are safe and our people are safe. We can't have people wandering the streets, banging on our windows when we're at the fast food restaurants, which happened to my wife several times, happened to me once at McDonald's, somebody banging on the window, almost trying to bust the glass. That's not keeping us safe. We got to equip our police officers, give them the equipment they need, the finances, resources, and the moral support. We need to support our police officers. Stand behind them. And our firefighters and our EMS on the screen so you know. But that's what Miller Time means, okay? So if anybody asks you, why is this Pastor John Miller promoted Miller Time? This is why. Stay tuned for future videos.
My name is Jimmy Valenzuela. I've known John Miller for 7 years now. I trust him and you can trust him too. Siya ni Jimmy Valenzuela, ang mamok ni John Miller, ti onos ti pitong katawan, isukit mapagtalkan nga tao, ken naimbag nga tao.
I'm Ruth Valenzuela, John Miller, my neighbor. I have known him for 7 years. Please support him by voting for him this coming election. Thank you. Siya ni Ruth Valenzuela. Karubak ni John Miller. Ibotos tayo kuma. Isuna inton election. Thank you. Aloha.